is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Veerakorn. Headlines. A decision on whether to impose further travel restrictions will be taken following discussions this evening. Irrigation Department withdraws flood warnings issued recently. Infrastructure for industries and businesses will be developed amid the COVID pandemic. The preliminary measures of creating 200,000 new entrepreneurs are in the final stage. On news services, the US donates 500 million vaccines to the world. In sports news, it's cricket. Fast bowler James Anderson becomes England's most capped test player. Local stories in detail. Army Commander General Shavendra Silva says that the decision whether to impose further travel restrictions will be taken following discussions this evening. However, no final decision on extending travel restrictions or imposing curfew has been taken so far. The Army Commander requested the people not to get misled by false reports in this regard. Hydrology and Disaster Management Unit of the Irrigation Department says that flood warnings issued recently would be withdrawn. The department said the warnings are being withdrawn since there has not been considerable rainfall in the country during the past 24 hours and water levels of the rivers are decreasing. Infrastructure needed by the industries and businesses will be developed amid the COVID pandemic. Army Commander General Shavendra Silva said that it will make a significant contribution to promote internal and external economic relations. He mentioned this while attending the annual sessions of the Sri Lanka Investment Forum. He said that steps have been taken to protect the health of those who are working in the projects. The government has paid its attention on promoting spices in the country. Agricultural and plantation industries are being maintained. All harbours are functioning according to the advice of experts. The preliminary activities of creating 200,000 new entrepreneurs are in the final stage. Secretary to the Presidential Task Force on Gama Samaga Pilisandarak, W.H. Karunaratne, said that needs of the entrepreneurs will be identified and necessary facilities will be provided. He said that educational activities of rural children are being supported by developing communication facilities in the villages. He said it is already being implemented in Kurunegala and Ratnapura districts. State Minister for Regional Cooperation Tharaka Balasurya invited Indian investors to join Sri Lanka to achieve shared prosperity for both nations by taking the opportunity to invest in Sri Lanka. The minister made these remarks at the India Country session of the Invest Sri Lanka Forum, broadcast digitally from the Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo. The State Minister highlighted 6 key areas of interest for potential investors during his keynote address with a focus on the rubber, textile and information technology industries. He also encouraged investors to utilize the special fiscal incentives on offer through the special economic zones, particularly through the recently established Colombo Port City. Organised by the Board of Investment, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the Colombo Stock Exchange, Invest Sri Lanka is Asia's first and largest virtual forum to attract foreign investments with over 4,500 participants from over 85 countries. General Secretary of the United National Party, Range Bandara, says that some frontline members of the Samagi Jana Balavegaya will join his party. He said they will join since Samagi Jana Balavegaya was not following policies and is engaged in a backward program. He said that opposition leader Sajid Premadasa has not presented a successful program for the benefit of the party. He pointed out that the opposition leader has not been able to realize the value of the organic fertilizer policy of the government. Meanwhile, former MP Vijaypala Hettiarachchi said that no member of the Samagi Jana Balavegaya will join the United National Party. He said that reports of divisions in the party are false. He further said his party is not at a disadvantage if Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe entered Parliament. Commander of the Navy Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulugethanna presented letters of appreciation to the commanding officers of Samudra Prahari, Vajra and Vaibhav ships in a simple ceremony at the port of Colombo today. It is in appreciation of the praiseworthy contribution made by Indian Coast Guard ships during the damage control operation in collaboration with other stakeholders, following MV Express Pearl caught fire off Colombo Harbour on 20th May 2021. High Commissioner of India Gopal Bagle thanked the commander and Sri Lanka Navy for extending wholehearted cooperation to the Indian vessels throughout the operation. He said that it was not merely the geography that bound India and Sri Lanka in the maritime sphere, but the tradition of close cooperation in responding to emergencies. A COVID treatment centre has been opened at Navakadu Hospital in Batticaloa district. Batticaloa Regional Director of Health Services Dr. Nagalingam Mayuran inaugurated the centre yesterday. The centre can accommodate up to 100 COVID patients. Dr. Nagalingam Mayuran said 660 patients are being treated at the COVID treatment centres in the Batticaloa district. Dry food packets have been distributed to indigenous people by the Batticaloa District Senior Superintendent of Police Sugat Masingha and other officers at Wakarai area in Batticaloa District. Police have provided dry rations in response to a request made by the leader of indigenous people in Wakarai, Ambalavar Nallathambi Velayudham. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
Continuing with the local stories, State Minister P.L. Nishantha says that the opposition analyses all activities of the government in a negative manner. He said that there is a crisis between United National Party and Samagi Jana Balavegaya. During a media briefing today at Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Party office, he said that the government will move forward with its people-friendly program, ignoring opposition accusations. State Minister P.L. Nishantha said that an allowance of 2,500 rupees will be given to the preschool teachers on the 17th under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. 5 preschools named Saubhagya preschools will be built at each district. 150 such preschools will be launched island-wide before the end of this year. He said each such preschool will be given 2.5 million rupees. Professor Udit K. Jayasinghe, who was appointed as the Secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture, assumed duties today at his ministry. Earlier, he was the Vice-Chancellor of Wayamba University. He has been appointed to implement several programs, including the use of organic fertilizer and to uplift agriculture under the Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor national policy of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. A new program will be implemented to conduct educational workshops aimed at schools during travel restrictions by the Parliament. Accordingly, short workshops on duties, traditions, activities, political science and media education will be conducted online. The Communication Department of Parliament is conducting the workshops. Further information can be obtained by calling over the telephone numbers 077 989 9085 and 071 535 2672. NARA says that an oil leak is visible towards northeast at the place where burnt Express Pearl ship sunk. An expert team has gone to the area to conduct an investigation with the assistance of Sri Lanka Navy and Coast Conservation Department. To end the local news, the headlines again. A decision on whether to impose further travel restrictions will be taken following discussions this evening. Irrigation Department withdraws flood warnings issued recently. Infrastructure for industries and businesses will be developed amid the COVID pandemic. The preliminary measures of creating 200,000 new entrepreneurs are in the final stage. That ends local news.
Nobody tells time like this. So why do you still pay with cash when you have People's Pay mobile app from People's Bank? Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On the main news story, the Embassy of Sri Lanka in Doha has facilitated the first air shipment of 150 oxygen cylinders and 22 pulse oximeters to the government of Sri Lanka, helping its battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. The donation was made by the Sri Lankan expatriate community, well-wishers and Lulu Group International in Doha as a result of an urgent request made by Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Qatar, M. Mafaz Mohideen. Sri Lankan Airlines lifted the cargo on a gratis basis at the request of the embassy. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watch Light. People in the area say that drainage systems from Anuradhapura, Bandaranayaka Mawatha, Kada Panaha Trade Complex to Kada Dolaha area has been blocked. They say that as a result, mosquitoes are breeding in the wastewater collected in the area. People say it has become a severe threat to their health. This is for the attention of the Anuradhapura Municipal Council health authorities and health officials. That ends Watch Light. We move on to world news now. The headlines. The US donates 500 million vaccines to the world. A miraculous mosquito hacks cuts dengue by 77%. A South African woman gives birth to 10 babies, breaking a world record. The US President Joe Biden will announce at the upcoming Group of 7 summit that his country will donate 500 million doses of coronavirus vaccines to nearly 100 lower-income countries and the African Union. The G7 summit starts in Cornwall, England tomorrow. White House officials say the US will purchase the vaccines from pharmaceutical company Pfizer. They say 200 million shots will be delivered by the end of this year and 300 million in the first half of 2022. Dengue fever cases have been cut by 77% in a groundbreaking trial that manipulates the mosquitoes that spread it, say scientists. They used mosquitoes infected with miraculous bacteria that reduce the insect's ability to spread dengue. The trial took place in Yogyakarta city, Indonesia, and is being expanded in the hope of eradicating the virus. The World Mosquito Program team says it could be a solution to a virus that has gone around the world. A South African woman has given birth to 10 babies, breaking the world record held by Malian woman Halima Kisse, who gave birth to 9 children in Morocco. According to South African local media, Gosiami Tamara Sitol, aged 37, underwent a caesarean operation to give birth to 7 boys and 3 girls, making her the Guinness record holder for the most children birthed by one woman at once. Reports further indicate that Sitol and her husband Teboho Sotetsi were expecting 8 babies, but 2 babies had apparently missed the scan. To end the world news, the headlines again. The US donates 500 million vaccines to the world. A miraculous mosquito hack cuts dengue by 77%. A South African woman gives birth to 10 babies, breaking a world record. That ends world news. We move on to development news. The Cabinet of Ministers this week approved a program to beautify 100 cities with the assistance of all state institutions and all other parties entrusted with the supply of infrastructure facilities. The proposal in this regard was tabled by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in his capacity as the Urban Development and Housing Minister. That ends development news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
And on business news, the Information and Communication Technology Agency expects the banking sector to boost lending to worthy tech companies. This is by adopting the recently introduced credit evaluation framework in their credit evaluation and approval process when lending to tech companies and moving away from the outdated collateral-based lending practices. The new credit evaluation framework was developed by the ICTA in collaboration with PwC Sri Lanka. That ends business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
And on sports news, it's cricket, rugby and football. In cricket, fast bowler James Anderson became England's most capped test player after being selected to play in the series decider against New Zealand. The 38-year-old wins his 162nd cap at Edgbaston, surpassing former captain Alastair Cook. Lancashire's Anderson made his test debut in 2003 and has taken 616 wickets, an England record. He is 7th on the overall list for most caps and 4th for most wickets, the leading fast bowler in each. And in rugby, the ball steal rule is set to be dropped by the Rugby Football League after just one season. The rule, copied from Australia's NRL in 2021, allows a player to steal the ball from an opponent if his teammates drop off the tackle in time. But it created confusion and difficulty for referees in deciding whether players had fallen off the tackle. Now the governing body's law committee will seek RFL board approval to remove the rule from the start of 2022. And in football, Manchester City have formed a research collaboration with the English Institute of Sport to accelerate the understanding of female athlete health. So far, research across sport is limited given the relative infancy of full-time professional female clubs. Access to detailed insights is often unavailable, but this project will look at how to optimize performance support. That ends sports news.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And on economic news, a win-win situation it would be for investors who take the leap to set foot into Sri Lanka in its current juncture, the Board of Investment said, since much emphasis has been given to create a compelling investment environment. BOI Chairman Sanjay Mahotala said there is so much more than tea, rubber, coconut and apparels on offer for potential investors. He said areas identified to fill the aspired growth target were identified as manufacturing, ICT, tourism, agriculture, food processing, services and infrastructure. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, on the weather report, the Met Department says showers will occur at times in Sabaragamu province and in Nura Elia and Kandy districts. Fairly heavy falls above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in these areas. Several spells of showers will occur in western and northwestern provinces and in Gaul and Matra districts. Wind speed will be 40 kilometers per hour in the western slope of the Central Hills, northern, north-central and northwestern provinces and in Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. The wind speed can increase up to 50 kilometers per hour at times in these areas. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to end this bulletin of news, the headlines again. A decision on whether to impose further travel restrictions will be taken following discussions this evening. Irrigation Department withdraws flood warnings issued recently. Infrastructure for industries and businesses will be developed amid the COVID pandemic. The preliminary measures of creating 200,000 new entrepreneurs are in the final stage. In news overseas, the US donates 500 million vaccines to the world. In sports news, fast bowler James Anderson becomes England's most capped test player. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.